All right, welcome back, viewers, to our another exciting episode of our podcast series, the Young Turks Dialogues. And today we have a very special guest right here from Germany, Dr. Tim. Dr.
Uh,
Tim, first of all,
Hi.
welcome to the episode. How are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm great. I mean, it's morning here. It's a little bit later for you guys, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Looking forward to this.
Yeah, even we are looking forward to you. And for our audience who is watching this episode, today's episode is going to be all about data. Now, we all know we call the data as the new oil or the new gold. So there is a reason why do we call it like that. So Dr. Tim, he's specialized into data. He's all about data. He's also a podcaster. As you can see, I don't have a mic right now, but still yes. And then he is also an inspirational speaker and a leader. And he runs his own company right now that is corely focused into data. Am I right?
Yeah, well, data, performance marketing, marketing technology, but yeah, in the end, data, right?
It is all about data.
Yeah.
We all know performance marketing is nothing about data. So let's directly deep dive into the podcast episode without wasting any time. And let's start with a bit of your background, a bit
Yeah.
of your introduction from your end, because you have such a long introduction, I won't be able to do justice. So let us begin with that.
Yeah,
Our
nice.
audience.
I try to be fast. I mean, I can do my normal spiel. Hi, I'm Tim, and I've been doing something with data for almost 20 years now. Yeah, I mean, I think I have it might sound like a weird background, but I think it's a very standard background for anything in my age group, like over 40 doing data. Because when we started studying, there was no data courses. There was like computer science, there was not even machine learning. So I studied bioinformatics, which you can also call computational biology. And I think nowadays you can also just call it data science, because in the end, it's like using data to solve problems, right? And these
Right.
problems were biological. Also, the PhD in that area, just because nice project and that actually paid quite well. So I never really wanted to be in academia that urgently. And then I also realized that I don't want to be in academia very urgently. And yeah, tried to get out. Took me 2 years, because obviously when you hire PhD candidates or new PhDs, then they know something very well, but they don't know most of the other stuff.
Right.
And from that, I went into startups. And I think that's still what I'm doing today. Went into gaming, got told after 2 weeks, hey, programming great, SQL great, but maybe you should actually do something which you can do much better, which is talking to the management, to the other teams. So I quickly became the interface between data and everyone else. Yeah, and I think that's also the story of my life. Also did a lot of other things, like worked in gaming for 3 years. Then I worked in social networking. Then I also worked in an incubator for health tech and data, which
Oh,
again fits to my original study course. And my last real job was being the VP data at FreeNow, which for anyone who doesn't know it, it's like it's pretty much a European Uber, founded in the same year, doing the same stuff. I hope a little bit more important in Europe than Uber. And pretty much built the whole data team there. Started from 10, 15 people, scaled it up to 100, down
wow.
to 60, back up to 90, down to 80, to 120, like you usually do in a startup. And you can already hear there were some wavy wavy trends going up and down. And I used the last wave of getting people out of the company to fire myself first, because I realized after 5 years I need to do something else. And then I started freelancing. And I think what I do nowadays is therapy sessions between different teams, data, marketing, management, anything business like. Yeah. And also a lot of podcasts, a lot of keynotes, and all these things, which is a lot nicer, because I think I realized I like coaching and mentoring people. I don't like people management that much.
No, I can see the passion, the way you are telling everything. It is all about data.
Yeah.
And I hope you planned the life as well with that that way, like with a lot of data, data analytical insights into this. So with that, we will be talking about your mindset and a lot of things related to data in this episode. So for our audience who is watching, we are going to be discussing about predictive analytics. We are going to be discussing about data-driven strategies. We are going to be discussing about ethical considerations, which in this current scenario or the current year has become one of the most important things. As Tim is also into performance marketing, I am also into performance marketing. We both know
Yeah.
Earlier marketers used to abuse data. They used to get everything and they used to do a lot of stuff.
Which was also quite nice, to be honest.
Yeah, in terms of
From
generating
our
this.
side of
Yes,
working with it, it was quite nice.
yes. But now it has become a walled garden with
Yeah,
all these platforms, and we are not able to gather a lot of data. So we will be discussing about that. But before that, let us first start with the data-driven journey.
yeah,
So, Dr. Trip, let's talk a bit about the industrial experiences you had with this company that you were working in the last time for 5 years,
yeah.
the Uber of Europe. So, and before that also, you have so many data-driven experiences in your life. So let's talk, a bit about them so that we can gather the insights of data, because I see here in India, there are so many data jobs, but in market there is so much less supply. And I have seen this trend happening with my partner told me in the US as well, that data is something people still, do not see in a very positive manner. Like most people, they are still going with the traditional route. So let's start with this first to set the context, and then we will deep dive into the deeper things.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same in Germany, right? The amount of data positions that are open. And I think the biggest issue is really that people just don't know what they need or what they want or what's important. Because especially with the pandemic and everything else that's going on, it's quite apparent that a lot of companies realize, oh, we need to understand better what our numbers are, where the numbers come from, how can we actually steer them and change them. And then they look for a data scientist, which from my point of view is completely wrong because it's not what you need. I mean, at first, if you have nothing, you need someone who can build up a data stack and at the same time understand what your issues are. So, I mean, from my point of view, the first thing for any company to be data driven is to have a KPI dashboard, right? To understand what are the things that really change my business, what is the way my business is behaving, and that is not, that doesn't need fancy models or predictive analytics or anything like this. And I think that's also something I realized in most of the companies. The most important thing is really to understand what is the question you actually want to answer, right? Don't build a massive data warehouse. Don't build great models or anything. At first, sit together with, is it your management? Is it your marketing? It doesn't matter. With the person that needs to steer and improve the business, or in other words, keep the business alive, and help them to understand what are the questions they want to ask every day, and they don't have the answer to right now.
No, that is totally true. And even in terms of, I have seen and I have made the same mistake when I started my own business. I got this course. It showed me how to make fancy dashboards. So I made them. And then in
Yeah.
the end, I realized they do nothing for me.
Yeah, and no one used them, right? Because they look nice, they have a lot of information and
Yes.
have everything on there, but they don't ask the simple questions. And yeah, I mean, that's really what I did from the start, right? I think what you want to know more about my data-driven journey, the first interesting thing I did was working at a gaming company, Good Game Studios in Germany. And we did a lot of TV advertising. And the interesting thing was, we also did this in a way that we could calculate return on invest. And as you all know, TV is not trackable. It's actually a big pain, even the
Yeah.
whole addressable TV right nowadays. And that was interesting because the data team was like, "Oh, we can build the best algorithms. We just have to kill marketing in a country for 6 weeks." And I was like, "Yeah, but when I take this now and go to the CEO and to the CMO and tell them that, then you won't see me again because I'm on probation period." And they will be like, "Are you crazy? It doesn't work."
Right.
So, and it's always these things, right? Really being in the middle, understanding what do we have data wise to really bring us forward, but how can you join this with the needs of the company? And the needs of the company are obviously not kill marketing in a market for 6 weeks. I mean, the trick in the end was keep the marketing very, very steady and keep it in a way that you expect the marketing also to run during your TV flight, because then you can very easily build incremental and uplift models, right? That's the
Right.
that's the main thing.
No, that is totally true. And I think for the entrepreneurs who are watching this episode, you need to understand this to the first thing.
Yeah.
So that is something very important.
And
So now, if I talk about, so data is something. There has been a lot of buzz. I see people emailing me. I get thousands of emails talking about predictive analytics.
yeah.
First of all, what is that?
Uh,
What is the name of this bird? What it does?
I mean, I actually like that word because it doesn't say artificial intelligence or data science or anything like this or model. In the end, predictive analytics is predicting how your business will behave based on stuff you know. So, I mean, you might do normal analytics, like you look at your marketing data, you look at your current return on invest, but it might be quite important to know when you start a campaign, how will the return on invest look in the next 3 months or 6 months? Because if you know this early on, then you can very easily decide, oh, should I scale this campaign up or should I just kill this campaign completely?
That makes a lot of difference in the mindset, because generally we think we start, then we track.
Yeah.
But this is the other way around. We do it first.
Yeah, yeah.
Then
I
we
mean, it's always the first thing you always have to do is really think about. I mean, we just said this, right? It's really about asking stupid questions, and the stupid question in this case could be, I'm starting a campaign. I want to know whether it's worth it. And then you can go further down and analyze, oh, what means worth it? And obviously, for most people, it's just revenue.
Yeah.
Cool. We can predict the revenue. That's not that hard. But for a lot of, I mean, what I always like to do was really building something like, let's not look at the revenue. Let's really look at what campaign brings you active customers. Because revenue in the first 5 to 7 days, where usually stuff like this should be run, like predictive analytics models, great, works. But to be honest, it could also be something. Think about, something like mobility. You get a nice voucher, so you use it twice because the first time is free, the second time is not free. Then you never use it again. Awesome. So use twice, nothing else. And the same for gaming, right? I'm not sure how much you guys are into this whole marketing fraud stuff, but we
No,
also,
we are not.
yeah, I mean, click farms, anything. It's still there. It's like a very nice cat and mouse game. But we also had that issue that we try to understand how the marketing campaigns run in gaming. And then you just look at install. And install, yeah, not that great, because there might be a lot of people that install the game because they get money for that. So we started to evaluate marketing campaigns on the activity of users in the first 3 days or reaching level something. And I think that's always very important, right? Predictive analytics, great. Don't always look at the revenue, but it's really something you have to understand how your business really benefits from new customers. And that's not revenue in the first week. That's actually getting people in there, getting people active, and hooking them on what you're doing.
Right. So, in terms of, if I talk about 2025, how do you see data transforming marketing in 2025? Like right now, the specific use case, marketing across industries.
No. I mean, it's a journey that I think for us in Europe started in 2018. For everything who don't know what happened in 2018. 2018, we had the advent of the GDPR, which was great. Which means now, I mean, I started marketing in the early 2010s. That means I had everything like hyper targeting. I had all the data. I could get all the clicks. I could see every view by every customer. Yeah, that's gone. Forget about it. That's not there anymore. And I mean, there's even the issue that stuff like cookie consent is there all over the world, which means that everyone who opens a website has to click on this stupid button that I either accept or deny tracking.
If they
Which,
deny, we are gone.
well, yeah, exactly. And that usually means that you lose about 30 to 40% of the data. Then we also have iOS 14.5, iOS 17, which even did more. The IDFA, the idea for advertisers, is pretty much gone. So all this awesome stuff we could do before is not there anymore. And
Yes.
from my point of view, this leads to, people actually thinking properly about what they're doing more. Because the only thing, I mean, in the end, before that, you had this very, very rigid connection between marketing cost and customer. That's gone. Don't think about this anymore. And we could now talk about, you should use marketing mix modeling. You should use incrementality. Yes, you should. But for most companies, this is way too advanced and way too far-fetched. And most smaller businesses just don't have the money or the understanding for that. So I think the more important thing is really understand what kind of marketing you do. Try to use your first party data, because that's something you always have, right? You can always understand how many customers joined, subscribed, installed, or bought something, or were active on your platform at any given time, and then compare this to the marketing actions you're doing, right? I mean, it will become quite difficult to really have, I'm not sure, I mean, we sometimes had 500 campaigns running in one country with loads of creatives. I don't think this is going to be the thing anymore. Or at least there will be no way to properly say, hey, of these 10,000 different creatives we had, this one is the right one. Yeah, maybe. I mean, you still have some data, but from my point of view, people should really get more accustomed to we don't have the real connection. So we don't see numbers for every creative, for every tiny ad group anymore, but we have to look at the bigger picture. And I mean, that's something I was steering since 2018, also with FreeNow, for example, because we were completely focused on, we really have to work with everything we have. We have to really do the whole multi-touch attribution. And then we realized, yeah, that's an issue. But then we just went up to the campaign level. And doing this obviously made us lose a lot of details. But it also had a very good other side, because we could easily now compare this to the offline campaigns we had. And a business like mobility, for example, obviously has a lot of offline stuff, like you have massive posters somewhere, and you never know what happens, right? Because you don't have the time to zoom out and look on this scope. And going on campaign level made it quite easy to really compare the digital campaigns and the offline campaigns, and really have a much coarser but much more defined understanding which of these really, for a certain cohort, and that's an important word, and remember that, changed something. And to summing this up, from my point of view, what people should really do more in 2025 is look at cohorts. And they should have done this for the last 10 years as well, but most people don't understand this, because the important thing is really, you did marketing in week 1 of the year. You know what you did there, right? You did different marketing in week 2. And now you just look at the cohort of people that joined your business or did something in your business in week 1 and how they behave in the future. And doing this makes it quite easy to understand, hey, the marketing actions we did in week 1 were different to the ones we did in week 2. Could be better, could be worse, but that's really something where you have to look at different KPIs in your first party data and compare this to what you do with the marketing, which not necessarily needs a connection between, hey, this user had a CPA of €5.35 or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, that is totally true. So you mentioned while we were talking about startups or small businesses don't have those bigger budgets.
Yeah.
So how can they take smarter decisions without having to spend more and leverage that data on their hands to make the best use out of it?
I think the big mistake, and that might now sound a little weird because I'm a freelancer, the big mistake a lot of companies do is hiring data people. I mean, at first, the data people are not around. When you're a small company, you will certainly not get someone who's strategically well-versed, knows their stuff, but you get a junior. And then you have a junior who has no one to steer them, who's no one to develop them, and no one to help them. And that usually goes to shit. So from my point of view, the important thing is really use the tools that are out there. And I know there are way too many tools, but there's a lot of stuff out there that can really help you easily get a grasp of your data, visualize your data, make sense out of it, and look at it. I mean, and it's also, I mean, the funny thing is when I talk to small enterprises, they sometimes also have a KPI list which is 5 pages long, right? So
God.
yeah, no, and also weird things, right? Then what did I have recently? Then you ask someone, hey, what do you want to know about your website? And they want to know everything. They want to know where people scroll to, where the mouse hovered the longest time, which pages were looked at for most of the time, where the bounce rate was. Fine, but for me to, in the end, it's like, build a funnel for yourself, right? Build a funnel of important events on the website, define them properly, and now we can go back again. Think about what you want to know. What's the question you want to answer? And the question is not, hey, did someone hover for 10 minutes on contact us? Maybe. But what's the information you gain out of this, right? The information is mainly, that means that must be a very important page, part of the page. No, that just means this guy left their mouse there and went to get a coffee or something like this.
Correct.
And this is really the issue, right? Use the expertise that is out there, and that might sometimes mean hiring someone who's a freelancer, because to say something very bluntly, not every company can get a proper data team or can build a proper data team. It's impossible. I mean, the people are just not around for that. And the way I see it, they also won't be around for the next 5 to 10 years. Maybe afterwards, when using stuff like ChatGPT and DeepSeek becomes the norm and everyone has organically knows how to use this. But from my point of view, no, really do stuff where you use the tools, and it could be stuff like use data aggregators. There's like 5, 10 different ones out there which are all great. Use easy dashboarding tools. I mean, my favorite stack is using something like Fivetran, Funnel, Supermetrics, Data Slayer, whatever, to get your data in, put them in an easy Google BigQuery data warehouse, or not even do this, just put it in a Google Sheet, and then you can visualize the important stuff immediately in Looker Studio, which is, I think, the easiest and best pipeline. And I'm not a Google fanboy. It's just, I mean, if you look at stuff like Azure and Microsoft Build, that's horrible. I want to stay away, far away as possible. And AWS just doesn't have this ease of access, and everyone who used Google tools will immediately know how to use a dashboard, right? And that's the other important thing. You have to build stuff that your company and your employees want to use, can use, and don't have to ask too many questions about. Yeah.
It has to be easy, else there is no point of having such complicated systems.
No. I think that's also something where I'm not that happy with most of the tools like Power BI or Tableau or all these bigger ones, because they always promise you, oh, we have all these analytics features and you can do this and this. No one is doing that. People want to look at
They
a
promise
number.
to bring you the moon, but whereas actually you just need.
Yeah. And I mean, in the end, it's like you come to work in the morning. You want to see if the number goes like this or like this, and then you can investigate. But that's the first step.
Yeah, it actually becomes a case of an FBI.
Yeah. And I mean, I have these great examples, right? I recently worked with a company who was really interesting food delivery, and they got me in and were like, "Oh, we need to understand better how our marketing and our company in general works." And I was like, "Cool, let's do a workshop with the management. Let's leave data out for now, because obviously they don't like what data is doing, and it's always quite bad to get these people in a room and immediately have the escalation." Then I asked the questions, I understood what they wanted, and the next meeting was talk to the data team. And the data team showed me this perfect data warehouse. Everything was in there. Everything was completely well built up. They had a very good agency. They worked very well together. But the issue was there were 5 widgets, not even dashboards, like these report widgets in Tableau, where you really just had one graph and that's it. And I was like, yeah, but I mean, guys, you have everything, but why don't we have the dashboards? Yeah, because we don't know what they want and they can't tell it to us. I was like, okay. So the interface was missing. And I think that was the nicest job ever, because I could really level up the data team, because all these guys were in their mid to end 20s, were quite happy. I told them, hey, this is how you talk to your stakeholders. We did this together in a team of 4, and they understood all of this. And I think we had dashboards within 2 weeks, and everyone was immediately very happy. And the data team then went on and was like, oh, this is how we do it. This is how we ask the right questions. And it was great. But sadly, this is not always the case that you have this
Yes, of
perfect data
course.
warehouse. Usually you don't have anything at all.
So this was one of the good case studies that you told. Rather, generally it is worst.
Yeah. I mean, actually somewhere in the middle, right? It was the worst case scenario for the stakeholders. It was the best case scenario for someone external coming in and, well, having to work with data.
Right. So, we spoke a lot about data in terms of automation as well. So now people are automating their campaigns. A lot of automation has been going. So what is your take on balancing automation and human, touch in the campaigns? Because what my perspective is that automations or AI or robots, they can do only a limited part of it.
Yeah.
At the end, you need human intelligence. I will say human intelligence to actually execute marketing.
Yeah.
What is your take on it?
Uh, it's not even limited to automation and marketing. It's limited to automation or using AI everywhere, right? I mean,
Yes.
I always hate this buzzword, because what we're doing right now is not AI or anything. It's like using Gen AI properly, and that's the big difference. Because I have been automating stuff 10 years ago or 15 years ago, and AI was always there. I think the important thing is really you have to understand what you want to automate and in what way, because again, getting a tool for example, customer relationship management, sending out newsletters, sending out notifications, just based on the triggers they have, that doesn't work. And my favorite example is usually most of these tools give you a churn prediction, and then they automatically send out stuff based on this churn prediction. Yeah, churn predictions maybe work for e-commerce, but for most of the businesses, your churn is very different and your customers behave very differently. So I think you have to use as much automation as possible, but you really have to understand what's going on there. So the worst thing you could do is just same as if you go to ChatGPT, right? Go to ChatGPT and tell it, hey, I want to have a script that collects all my marketing data and does this. It will 100% be wrong because the information you give the tool are not descriptive enough. And in the end, if you talk about this, any automation works as if you build a model, right? We could say you build something which we're drifting into the ethical part already, but maybe later more about this. But I mean, the first thing is really you want to build something and you want to have a proper output. But you, as the person building this, need to understand what data goes in, how is the data structured, how well is the data reflecting your customers, and then you also have to describe quite well what you want out of this data. And I think that's the important thing. And if we go, for example, to stuff like, let's say you have Braze and you want to send out emails for certain people at a certain time, yes, use these automations, but think very well about the use case when something is triggered automatically.
Oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense in this case.
Yeah. And I mean, on the other hand, use all this content creation, use AI to build beautiful pictures and stuff like this. This is all fine, but I think the important thing is, for this automation, any other automation, you have to see this as a tool that is improving your work results and is upgrading your speed. It's not replacing you. I mean, there's this great saying: everyone is afraid that AI will replace jobs. AI is not going to replace jobs. People that use AI better than you is replacing your job. That's the thing.
Yes. No, that is that is what even I. So when ChatGPT came in, my clients told me, "Oh, what you are going to do for us now? ChatGPT is going to do everything." So that's what I told them. And after 2 years, we are still here
Wow.
working.
And I mean, it's like everyone is jumping on this hype train, right? And you
Yes,
can see it in every company. It's like, oh, we have to use AI now. And usually it's like, hey, go to your data or tech team. I think they have been using AI for the last 20 years because you already have matchmaking, you already have processes that run automatically, you already have decision trees or something that's all AI, right? Gen AI is just making it easier. And I mean, it's like we can also talk about AI agents and everything. There's a lot of very, very good use cases for that,
yes.
but that never works out of the box. I think that's the issue. Nothing works out of the box. And if any tool provider tells you, hey, this works out of the box and is perfect, don't trust them.
It does.
Don't just go to the
You
next
have
one.
to customize it. Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
always.
Yeah. So talking about AI, AI is doing so much of things in terms of creatives. People
Yeah,
are even so. There was this one of my clients. We created a data report for him on Google Looker Studio, and he took that data, did something in Chat GPT, came out with the output. I knew that's how you are going to be reacting.
yeah, yeah,
So, and this is some sort of becoming like a trend. People are selling courses, become a AI data expert. All of those things are happening in the market. So what I feel is, these things make your data because Chat GPT, even I tried it. I personally took the data and put it to Chat GPT. It did not give me the desired output.
yeah,
For people like this, or for entrepreneurs who are watching, so just give them an insight into how or what is the right way of doing things, because people I have seen, they think that they will buy the subscription of Chat GPT premium, they put out their data and the data analytical job is replaced or their work is done. But I when I put the data, it just gave me 1% or 2% of the output
yeah.
what I actually wanted, and it was like a long trail. For 1 hour I was just giving it prompts, and
Yes.
the desired output never came out. So let's talk a bit about that.
Uh, I can start with a very arrogant statement. I can do that because I've been a data scientist or a data modeler or data guy for 20 years. So
Yes.
it's my bread and butter to describe the problem in my head properly, what I want to build, right? And I think that's the issue. ChatGPT can be or can replace a data analyst, not the perfect data analyst, right? Not even a very, very good one, but an average one. That is someone you can tell, hey, I want to have this information. This is my data. These are the information you need about the data, because that's something that people miss quite often, right? Quite often people just push a data set in there and tell ChatGPT, hey, this is about this, this, and this. Please give me information. That doesn't work because, I mean, at first there might be there might be certain things in the fields that just you know. So you have to give the AI the right context. And that might be a pain in the ass, right? I mean, I'm using ChatGPT ongoingly all the time. I think my 30 € subscription, which is the Teams, the expensive one, which is quite nice because you can put everything in there. I think I get at least 100 times the money out of this every month, which is awesome. But the thing is also, it's not like I can just push stuff in there and it always gives me the right result, right? It's also like you say, it's also sometimes that I have to sit there and prompt for half an hour and then I realize, shit, I started in the wrong way. So I have to go back to the beginning.
Yes.
And that's the thing. You have to go back to the beginning, understand what ChatGPT understood and what you understood about your data, and then do another prompt. And I think the most important thing is really what I just said. You have to understand the data, right? It doesn't work that you just put anything in there. And that was probably the issue also of the client you had. They just downloaded something and were like, give me more information about this. Yeah, it doesn't work. And the really weird thing that I have been asking myself for the last 2 years, this is like a great business case, right? Where is that? Where's the good Gen AI integration of Power BI, of Tableau, of all the bigger tools? It's not there yet.
Yeah.
And that's something, and you know why? Because it's difficult. Because it's not like you can just put data in, and even these awesome tools, they will know, yeah, but I mean, it's the big problem, shit in, shit out. So if the data you get in is not great, or if the data you get in is not descriptive enough, how is AI supposed to give you the right answer?
Mm. So that is the point.
Yeah, and so honestly, in the end, I would still say use it as much as possible, but try to explain much better what you want. And I mean, the biggest issue with AI usually is you have to call the bullshit. And it's not perfect. It's the same as if you have, imagine you have your analyst. The analyst is like in their job for like 3 years now, is doing a good job. They will make mistakes. And
Yes.
someone has to see these mistakes, which hopefully sometimes is the analytics lead who can look at the data and look at the code and be like, that's wrong. And I mean, that's what that happens to me every second day, that I tell ChatGPT, hey, I need code for this, this, and this. And then there's a line in there where I'm like, where do you get this? This doesn't make any sense at all. So it's always this, your AI hallucinates or makes mistakes. And I mean, the obvious thing is it has to make mistakes because all this information comes from Stack Overflow or anything else where there's also mistakes in there. So yeah, use it, but use it always with a grain of salt. And I mean, the best way to use it is really, you know what you put in and you know what you want to get out. And then it should, well, hopefully maybe work in most of the cases.
So, why not we talk about a specific case study demonstrating successful application of data strategies for a startup, especially because
Yeah.
most of the audience who is watching right now is startup founders or marketers.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to do AI, if you want to do predictive analytics, and if you have some of your data or a bit, I think no, I'm not. I'm sure the stuff and the model I always propose to companies is you should predict certain KPIs, and that's actually quite easy because you should use something like recency frequency monetary. That's my favorite thing. That's a very powerful model, and it works with clustering. It works with k-means, and it's also something that ChatGPT can do very, very well if you put the right data in. But I think that's the important thing, right? So my favorite example is always something like CLV prediction, or let's just call it revenue prediction. Let's not make it hard. And this is something you can do very easily with stuff like RFM, because RFM means recency frequency monetary, which means at a certain point in time, let's say 7 to 15 days or 30 days after your customer got in, you look at their behavior. And the behavior is, for example, 3 KPIs. The recency, when was the last time your customer came into your product or your business or your website or whatever? The frequency is, how often did this happen until now? And the monetary, it's called monetary, but it could also be something else, can be the amount of revenue we made with a person. But obviously, this doesn't work for something like subscription models. It could also be the activity. Imagine you're a video streamer. It could be the amount of minutes watched or something like this. And then you have for every person 3 numbers. The nice thing is you can also get these 3 numbers, hopefully, for all your customers that came in before. So get the historical data, look at everyone, gather this data for every customer at the 15th day of their registration, of their joining your business. And out of this, you can easily then apply clustering. K-means clustering is great because K-means gives you, just for everyone who doesn't understand it, K-means means you tell the clustering algorithm before, oh, I want to have 10 clusters, 5 clusters, please cluster me these people in the best way. Also gives you some kind of weird numbers to tell you whether the clustering is good or bad. And that means, for example, if you now have this data, you can say, hey, I have all these people. I want to have 3 different levels of revenue. Low revenue, mid revenue, high revenue. And there you probably also have to tell them, that should be the monetary value. And it will give that to you. And the nice thing is now you know, oh, I have this cluster on average with these, with these predictive, what's called, with these parameters, usually gives you between 0 and 10 euros in the first 60 days. This cluster gives you between 10 and 100 euros in the first 60 days, and this gives you between 100 and God knows what. And then you can apply this because every time someone comes in on the 15th day, you just get these numbers, the recency, frequency, and monetary number, and check in which cluster they fall. And obviously, this will not give you the information that this person will make you 35.69 in the next 5 weeks, but it will tell you whether it's a high, low, and mid-value customer.
Right.
And it's funny because we did this at FreeNow. And at FreeNow, we then had 5 different clusters. And I will now ask you a question. We had a cluster that said we will never make money with them. We had a cluster which said 0 to 10 euros. We had a cluster around 50 euros and a cluster around 200 and one above. Out of these 5 clusters, which one do you think was the most important one to work with?
The first one, where the money is.
Wow. You are the first one to answer that right. Yes, the 0 bucket. And you know
Yes.
why the 0 bucket was the most important one? Because every mobility business or food delivery or whatever, how do these businesses keep their customers?
Right.
Vouchers, right? Vouchers. And the thing is, usually every time you use a voucher with one of these businesses, they don't make any money off of you. Well, big surprise. No one ever expected that, but they sometimes also lose money. And this group of 0 euro users also in the future were voucher hunters. So that were those people that just came in and wanted to use the service when it was for free, which made us lose money. So not giving those people vouchers anymore didn't make us money, but made us lose a lot less money than before, which was really, really nice. And I think that's something, understand your business in a way, use RFM. And again, RFM is something ChatGPT does perfectly. That's really, really nice. It will even tell you, hey, I expect these amount of clusters. Do you think this or this is better? So that's really nice.
That is amazing. I think the audience who is watching it should try this today.
Yeah,
Even I will personally take the time to try it. So, while implementing all of this, what are the top 5 common mistakes you see people or organizations making?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, the first one is actually hiring data scientists instead of analysts or instead of analytics engineers. That's the first thing, right? There's this big hype that everyone needs data scientists. No one understands what a data scientist is, and that leads to the awesome situation that either you are a real data scientist and you get into a job where you have to do analytics engineering, which makes you unhappy, or on the other side, the company needs a data scientist. No one knows what a data scientist is and hires someone who's actually a data engineer and doesn't want to do any modeling. So I think that's one thing, right? Think properly about what you actually need. On the other hand, it's also what I said before. I mean, this perfect data warehouse was great, but that's not the first step, right? The first step is not to get someone in and build all your data from scratch, because to be honest, 80% of this data you will never use and you will never need. It's totally fine to track stuff, to get something, put something in a raw layer. In the end, open the drawer, put it in, close the drawer. When you ever need it again, you know where in which drawer it is. That's the right thing. That's very important. The other important thing is also too many KPIs. So from my point of view, it's very important to have something like North Star KPIs. And that can be completely stupid, right? Not everyone in the company, and I think most people don't need to understand conversion rates or any kind of points in the funnel. I mean, mobility business, our two main KPIs were revenue and trips. That's it. Everyone looked at this every day. If you see the revenue going down and the trips going up, something is wrong. Maybe the costs are too high. If the trips are going up and the revenue go up, yeah, great. If the revenue goes up and the trips stay the same, even better, because you sell more. And that is also the case with these two KPIs. Most people will, I think 29 days of 30 in a month will just look at these two and understand everything. And then if there's an issue, they can dig down deeper. That's really the way to go.
Here I have one question. Why not profit instead of revenue?
That's a good question, because it's quite often very hard to get the profit. I think one of the most difficult things for any company is to really get the cost straight, right? And I mean, the thing is also, when you look at something like a business that's been, well, going on for longer time, you quite often just look at acquisition costs, which is wrong. You also have to look at retention costs. And then you also maybe have to think about, I mean, profit. What is profit? Contribution margin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think that's the issue, right? And it makes it quite hard, because my favorite question when I come into any workshop is asking people what revenue is. And if you have 3 people in the room, guess how many answers you get that are different?
Everybody must be giving different answers.
Exactly. I mean, revenue is net, gross,
Yes.
with cost, without cost, and that's the issue. You have to make it easy, because these KPIs have to be easily understandable. And profit, for the most whole company, is not easily understandable. And to be honest, quite often you don't want to show the profit to the whole company, or to most people, right? It can't be a North Star. It can be a North Star KPI for the management,
Right.
but maybe not for anything 2 levels below that. That doesn't work.
No, that is clear.
And that's also the next point. I think I have 4 now, right? Stop me when I have too many. The next point is also, don't base your assumptions on ratios. I think that's also one thing. A lot of people are really happy with looking at conversion rates. Conversion rates are great. But which conversion rate is better? 100% with 1 person coming in and buying something, or 50% with 5,000 people coming in and 2,500 buying something? So that thing, you always have to look at the KPIs in total. And that also leads me to the last point. You have to look at everything holistically, because I'm not sure how many of you that listen use OKRs. I liked OKRs a lot. OKRs work on a very high level, but not for any kind of team. Because I have this great example. If you look at the wrong KPI and steer this and don't look at the big picture, so at your North Stars, for example, you will fuck the business. And one thing that happened in mobility was, I mean, you know this, right? There's always the screen where you put in, I want to go from A to B. Then you click on go, and the next screen shows you, oh, this is what we have available for you. This is the price. We had this team that had the task to improve the conversion rate from, on their screen, right? People had to click, yes, I want to do the ride. What was their great idea? They put in an automatic voucher, which gave everyone €2 off. Which is great, right? I mean, the conversion rate skyrocketed. They suddenly had much better numbers on the screen. Yeah, but the profit in the end went down, because I mean, if you think about mobility, €2 is pretty much the standard amount of money you make with a tour, right? And I was like, why are you guys doing this? Yeah, because this is our KPI. We have to improve this. Yeah, but can you maybe look at the revenue in the end? Yeah, but that's not my KPI. Yeah, that is an issue, right? And I mean, this idea is great. Segment the customers, understand which customers wouldn't have taken the tour without a deal, without a discount, give the voucher to them. Easy, no issue at all. But this was really like, yeah, you pretty much gave 90% of the users a very nice present.
Yeah, and now they are buying the discount, not your brand. That is
exactly, and they might also get accustomed to getting vouchers and not take a tour next time. So you didn't just burn money, you maybe also burned a very active and good customer that gave us money before.
Yeah, no, that is true. Even in a recent podcast, I was discussing about this, that with this quick commerce game happening and everything going around in the world like crazy.
Yeah.
So people are buying discounts, not brands. So brand
Exactly.
loyalty has become zero.
Yeah.
If somebody is giving me,
Yeah, no one gives a shit about this, right? If you want to go from A to B. I mean, even here in Hamburg, we have 5 different services, and you're using the one that is cheapest, obviously. Or you're lazy and you're using the one that's the first app on your phone. But it's not like there's a there's a big brand affection or something like this.
No, this problem earlier used so when I started business, I used to discuss, oh, this is an India specific problem. People only buy discounts. But now, when I realize over the world, people are buying not brands but discounts. If
Yeah,
a
yeah,
brand is offering a big discount, then this is for me. Oh,
yeah.
tomorrow you are offering, I am coming to you. So there is no loyalty.
No, 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 no. And I mean, that's something that we realized when I came in Free Now, back then still my taxi in 2018. There was no other player on the market, right? Because the business was running great. They could use vouchers. They could get more customers. Suddenly we realized, hey, this doesn't work anymore because suddenly there's Uber and there were like 3 other more local ones. And we had competition. And yeah, competition doesn't work with, stuff like
Yeah.
this.
That is true. So now let's talk about your favorite part, ethical data use.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, that's how much more time do we have? uh,
We have 15 minutes, so
yeah,
let
yeah.
us deep dive into the ethical data use part of it.
I'll just give you easy examples. I mean, yes, ethical data use very important because you have to understand what kind of data you use to, let's, for example, say build automations or do marketing or do targeting or whatever.
Right.
And my favorite example is, again, the mobility case. Because the issue is, if you look at data a mobility provider has, there's a lot of data. You know that people go from A to B, you know when they do this. But what you don't know is, who are these people?
Right.
And for example, in our case, we didn't have any idea about the gender or the age group. And this leads you to a very difficult problem because if you now look at your whole data set and start, building models, building stuff like, oh, we want to target this, we want to give people recommendations, maybe go this way, maybe do this, maybe do that. Everything we did was targeted towards, white cis males in their 40s to 50s because that was the biggest group, right? I mean, if you think about it, and that's something we didn't know. It's also funny because I was at a conference at some point. I did a lot of political stuff for mobility data sharing and so on. And there was also this guy who presented a very nice analysis about the favorite walkways, I think in Utrecht or Groningen, some city in the Netherlands. And he showed pictures, he showed all the routes, and at some point he showed a picture which was a dark alley. And this dark alley was frequented a lot because it was a shortcut from one street to the next. And I was like, yeah, did you ever look at the data you put in? Like, what kind of people did you ask? And the fun thing was, it was me and this guy on the panel and 5 women. And we all were like, yeah, I don't think any of these 5 ladies sitting next to you would take this after 6 p.m. And he was like, oh yeah, we never really looked at the gender. That might be important. and this is just a very stupid example how you really have to think about what data do you use and what is your approach and what do you want to get out of this. Because there's also this very bad example. The first time Meta put out a facial recognition algorithm. Do you know that story?
Nope.
No, yeah. Let's just say their data set was very wide, and colored people were recognized as primates. That was a few years back, but this is also something where you're like, maybe we all talk about diversity. You also need to be sure that your data set is diverse, or you need to understand how non-diverse your data set is and what you are targeting with that and who you give recommendations out to. So I think there's a lot of things, and that's also something when you look at all the AI ethics acts and stuff that are coming up in the Europe and the States, and I think everyone has them now. I think the most important thing they put in there is not what do you call it? Not guidelines, but you always have to be able to explain your algorithm.
Yes.
So you're allowed to use AI. You have to be able to explain what is the data that goes in, what is the algorithm in layman's terms doing, and what is the data coming out. And if you are able to do this, you also hopefully think about what data you put in and how the data is shaped and how it's diverse or non-diverse. And then in the end, you know what comes out.
So it is input, processing, and output. Simple.
Yeah, totally simple. Totally easy. Very easy to get that data. It makes sense out of it. And I mean, seriously, getting the gender data to our data is something we tried for a year, we failed. because it's honestly it's impossible, right? Because the only way to do this is to get a CDP or to get external data providers and enrich your data. But the thing is, you will never have a proper coverage, right? I think we had the best provider out there, and we looked at many of those, and we got a coverage for like, I'm not sure, 35, 40%, which already helped a lot, but there's still this big unknown of 60%. Yeah, we still don't know their gender. And I mean, the thing then, what you have to do is, and which a lot of people won't like, use the data where you're sure about it. And that might again lead to something where I cannot do a proper model for women in their early 20s because I don't have the data for that. I don't know what they're doing. And I think that's also something, I mean, from my point of view, it would be perfect if in the future you don't just have to explain your algorithm, but you should also put in for the customer, hey, we are using this. We trained this on this and this data. We know it works quite well for this social demographic, and this. We are not sure about the rest. So if you are in the other social demographic area or no bracket, then sorry if it doesn't work as intended for you. But that's something where companies and businesses and everyone who uses algorithms have to become a lot more transparent, right? Because in the end, yes, we all want to use this to make more money. No one will say, "Hey, I want to use AI for the improvement of humanity." Maybe if that's the case, good. But still, you have to do it in some way to use money to make money.
Money
But
generation is the key. Yeah. Without
yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah. Because otherwise, the salaries of your employees are not getting paid.
yes, that is
But
true.
but still, be a little bit more transparent. Be honest about it, and yeah, tell people what you're doing there.
Right. No, I think this was amazing. And before, there are two segments left. We are
Yeah,
already 15 minutes for our audience, but let us talk about this in a quick format. So, one is you have managed big teams, 100
yeah.
plus. So, coming to the leadership and team dynamics part of it. So, what were your methods to have your team, build them, train them, make your replica of them, so that they can execute the things properly in your format, how you like it. So let us first talk about that in a nutshell, about how to build a high performing team. And then once you tell that, you talk about how, with this team, what was the culture that you created, because that is something that has been going on in trend for these days,
Yeah,
that as an entrepreneur you have to build a culture, you have to do this for
yeah.
your team, and especially gen z's coming into this working culture now. So things have gone very different. They've so let
uh,
let begin.
uh, uh, First thing, don't try to build a team that's like you. That would be perfect, or they can do the same stuff you can do. It doesn't work.
Right.
And that's something that works when you have one or two people. It doesn't work with 5, and it seriously doesn't work with 120. Fuck no, that's completely different direction. Uh, for me, I never found the perfect solution, and I think that's not there. But I mean, it's actually answering both of your questions, right? From my point of view, you have to lead by example, and you have to lead with content. You have to lead with transparency. You have to make sure. The worst thing that you can do is really tell people, "Hey, I want this task done now. Do this." Yeah, but why? Why? Because it's not just like everyone in Gen Z and everyone also, I think, in Gen Y and before that, everyone wants to know, why am I doing stuff? And this is not just like because they want to be more integrated and want to know everything and want to be important. It
Right.
also makes them understand much better what they do, and they can also think further. Also, side note, you might not get people that want to think further, right? I mean, don't expect it all the time,
Yes.
but if you have the right person that is really interested in stuff and wants to do stuff, be as open as possible. I mean, sure, there's some things you can't tell people because transparency, and you know what I mean. But
Yes.
I mean, always be as transparent as possible. Try to lead with examples. Try to lead with your experiences, and even if those experiences are just doing it wrong, that's what happened to me quite often. But I think that's be a human being to your team and make them understand that yes, you might be the vice president or the chief data officer, but you were in the same shit as they were like 10 years ago, and you know how they feel. I think you can sum it up with empathy. Understand how your team is working, how it's behaving, and yeah, do that. And when you talk about the whole Gen Z stuff, I actually think, oh, sorry, I have to, a sec. I actually think that most of the things that the Gen Z wants to do and is asking for is not that wrong. I mean, to be honest, I became a freelancer because I don't want to do a 9 to 5 job. 9 to 5 jobs are stupid. And I don't want to do stuff that people tell me because I might not always know better, but I want to understand how it could be better. And yeah, 4-day weeks are also not a bad thing. And I think it's really be open, be transparent, try to make people understand why do you want the things from them.
Got it.
But it also shows that I'm maybe not a great people manager, and I'm very bad at doing. No, hard decisions are fine, but I'm also quite bad at explaining things 10 times, right? So it's important to find people that are really smart, that fit in working with you. They will never be the same. But let's just say it's difficult. It's difficult to lead a high performing team, and it's difficult to find the right people for that team because everyone wants those people.
Yes. So, one of the last things now I want to ask you. So, this podcast was very different. So, now talking about you versus the traditional firms. How
What
your approach is different, in terms of when you work with a client.
yeah,
So, it is you versus the traditional firms that are operating in the market.
give me a sec. I'm not sure whether I'm that different. But I think the biggest difference is really this I don't see myself as the massive data expert. I don't see myself as a machine learning expert or whatever you want to call that. I know how to do a lot of things, but the most important thing I really see is I want to solve problems. And I want to understand these problems. I want to understand what the issues are. And I want to work with all teams together to solve it. And I mean, I said in the beginning, I'm doing therapy sessions between different teams. And this
Yes, it's
might
very
sound very, very corny, but it actually is important, right? It's important to get the right people on the table to understand this is the issue they have, this is the problem they have, get this together. And I think the difference I make is that I've been doing this for, not even just in startups. I also did this in my PhD because I already there worked between chemists, pharmacists, and biologists using our tools with the developers we had and try to be the bridge to understand what the issues are. And I think that's really the big thing. And I think I'm quite transparent and honest about the stuff I think makes sense, don't make sense, doesn't make sense. A lot of people don't like that, but most of my customers are quite fond of someone telling them, hey, you've been doing this for 5 years now. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, favorite example, very big company that does newsletters has a full-fledged Salesforce integration for that. Salesforce, this massive tool for
Salesforce.
sending out newsletters. And I was like, yeah, maybe that is a bit too big, right? I mean, is it really the thing you want to have and you want to do? Yeah. So be transparent, be open, and really try to understand. And maybe it's a get the empathy shit, right? I like to be, or I might be empathic. I try to understand what people want, what people need. And that is not just the data team, but it's also the business side. What is your issue? What don't you understand? Why is there a broken connection between data and the rest of the company?
Right. No, perfect. I think it
Nice.
answers it all. And without taking much time on that note, first of all, thank you, Dr. Tim, for
Thank
giving
you.
your precious time for this episode. And then, secondly, thank you to our audience who have watched this episode till here. If you have watched this till here and have any questions, please post your questions down in the comment section, or you can reach out to Dr. Tim. His LinkedIn will be down in the description, or you can tell the questions to us and we will reach out to him and get those answers to you. On that note, thank you, Dr. Tim, once again, and thank you, our audience, once again. Do like, subscribe, share, and we will be back right soon with another exciting episode on our podcast series, The Young Turks Dialogues. Bye.
Bye.